Welcome to Let's Talk About Skills, baby. I am your host, Kelly Ryan Bailey. Each week, I chat with inspiring visionaries about the skills that make them successful, how they develop those skills, and their innovative approaches to improving skills-based hiring and learning around the world. Come learn what skills help you live your best life. Today, we're joined by Anthony Impey. Hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Very pleased to be with you here today, Kelly.
We're very pleased to have you. I want to do a little introduction for Anthony. So Anthony is a serial entrepreneur and experienced business leader with a track record in starting, building, and operating businesses and nonprofit organizations in the tech and skills sectors. He is also the founder of Optimity, which he built into one of the leading providers of wireless internet. He launched and successfully exited TouchBase Networks, a telecoms business. He also founded Tech City Stars and Tech Up Nation, which are nonprofit organizations that helped disadvantaged young Londoners kickstart their careers in the tech sector. I love that. He is chair of the Federation of Small Business Skills Policy Board, the UK government's Apprenticeship Stakeholder Board, and the Mayor of London's Apprenticeship Advisory Board. And I want to mention this great award. He was awarded an MBE in the Queen's 2018 New Year's Honors for Services to Apprenticeships and Small Businesses. What an honor. And Anthony was just telling me about that day when he received that award. And I was like, you know what, Anthony, just say it again, because I'm sure everyone has these moments in their life. And I'm sure there's more than just this one, but that one really stands out.
Oh, it was a very cool day. I went to Buckingham Palace. I drove through the front gates of Buckingham Palace, parked in the middle of the palace, and received my medal. You receive an MBE medal. If I'd known, I'd have brought it along and shown everyone. But you receive your medal. I received it from Prince Charles, and had a chat with him about the work I do with small businesses and apprenticeships. So yeah, an amazing day. Once in a lifetime opportunity, and very honoured to received it.
Definitely, it must have been. I'm a little jealous. I've obviously visited many times, but that's never an experience that I've had. So
it's quite something to be on the other side of the gates of Buckingham Palace. That's for sure.
I can only imagine. So, I've kind of given the highlights here of your life, but what I would love is for you to talk to us a little bit about kind of what led you here, a little bit about your story, your journey, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Well, I think, at my core, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've wanted to be an entrepreneur all through my career. I remember coming through school, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I set up my first business while I was at school, selling stationery from my school locker. I've never really thought about doing anything else. I've never thought about getting a kind of a proper job, because entrepreneurship is kind of in my blood. Mm-hmm. And my whole career has kind of been a feature of being an entrepreneur. Sometimes I worked in organizations and been an entrepreneur, kind of an intrapreneur, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And in fact, my first business when I left university was as an intrapreneur. I joined a small telecoms business called TouchBase. And, when I joined, I said, look, I want to start my own business, but I don't have any money to be able to do it. And they said, well, come and join us. We'll give you a little bit of equity in this new venture we're thinking about. Go and start it and see what you can do with it. And that was an amazing journey. I left university here in London, went and joined this business, and 9 years later ended up selling my division for a significant amount of money to a UK listed business. And so it's a great journey from startup to mm-hmm. exit and to kind of see public limited companies and how they operate, and sort of spend some time in the company that bought us. So it was a really interesting journey, that first experience, and really my whole career has been characterized by being an entrepreneur. And so I think I enjoy being in environments with high degrees of uncertainty, uh-huh. but actually environments where you can really change things and mold things and have a real impact on your environment and the world at large.
Definitely. Now, I feel like when you say things areas in that might be risky, I really feel like though you see that opportunity for growth as opposed to the negative of it. You're like, no, I really want those moments where I can spread my wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I think we're all in these very challenging times of COVID at the moment, and the outlook for our respective national economies is not good, and the global economy is in a real state at the moment. And I know a lot of people are experiencing a lot of hardships, but I do think in times of immense uncertainty, there are also times of immense opportunity, because all the things all those conventions that we had 4 or 5 months ago have all disappeared. All the rules have changed, and that's really exciting. There's now time to build new things. I kind of keep using this phrase of build back better. Mm-hmm. And I think that I genuinely believe that there's so much that needs to be done, that can be done. I think to some extent, I think we're entering the age of the entrepreneur. Over the next 5, maybe 10 years, entrepreneurs are going to be material to the recovery of the economy, the global economy, our national economies. Entrepreneurs are going to play a really, really important part in this, because we've kind of got the skill sets that deal with environments of uncertainty. My whole career, I look at my career and think, wow, there was some, you never know whether you're on the right track or you're doing the right thing, but you can cope, and you know how to operate in those times of uncertainty, and you understand how to measure risk and respond to risk. Right. And they're all features of what we're all facing now in the economy. So I think the times that we're entering now are, there's lots of uncertainty, and I understand that lots of people are having a hard time of it, but I think there's a real opportunity to do some really exciting things, and to have big impact on the way things are done. So very, I think we're in this age of the entrepreneur. I think it's very, very exciting time to be an entrepreneur.
I love that. And I love the build back better. I've been using the statement, move forward better. So similar concept, but I can't help but agree that this is a time, yes, of course, there's things that we wish didn't happen, but when we say, and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing, when you're saying build back better, it's, these were issues that were happening already. And so that concept of being able to see how else we can make adjustments, that we knew the problems were there. This just amplified it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, I think all the rules have gone out of the window. Right. How things used to work, they don't matter anymore. Because actually, we've got, we've all got monumental challenges that we've got to face, and monumental challenges caused by the fact that, we've had to respond in a particular way to, this health pandemic. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, it's resorted all the cards, and, it's that makes this a time of doing things differently. And I think, there's two schools of thought, really. One is, the free market economics school of thought, which says that actually what has to happen now is that all governments have to back off businesses, and they have to let businesses go and do what businesses do, which is make money. And if businesses make money, then, the economy will recover, and everything will be Do I'm not sure whether that's going to happen this time. That's happened in previous recessions.
Sure.
In the financial crash, if you look at the economic downturn in the 90s and the 80s, kind of government stepped back and businesses stepped in and rebuilt their businesses, and economic recovery followed. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think what's actually going to happen now is that businesses are going to say, we need to do things differently, because what the pandemic has done is shone a light on some of the the injustices that exist in our society, some of the massive challenges. Black Lives Matter as a movement has been going for years, and yet it's at this point in history that actually everybody's beginning to sit up and say, actually, this is really deadly serious, and this is not something that we can just dismiss. This is something that we've got to to really drive long-lasting, meaningful change.
Yeah.
And I think that sentiment is going to really shape what we see, in the future. So, and I think that's exciting. I'm very optimistic about what the future holds for us.
I agree. I mean, I think this time it's like a stronger pivot than we've had to make. Like maybe before we've just sort of like turned a little bit, but now it's like total 180 that is maybe necessary. But just like you said, I mean, if you could look at this as a negative, but I really feel like there's this opportunity for us to come out of this better, assuming the right mindset, which I really love that you mentioned this sort of like it's the age of entrepreneurs. So I want to take us back to your early comments, you selling stationery. I'm imagining you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like this entrepreneurship is in your blood, but I would love to know, number one, like, why do you think it's in your blood? I'm curious if you were raised by entrepreneurs, but also I'm really thinking like, I feel like I know what you mean when you say entrepreneurs and like this mindset and like the way that you go through life, but it would be great if you could maybe describe a little bit how an entrepreneur handles things slightly differently when it comes to, I'm thinking of course in terms of skills that a person might have that they can sort of hone in on to handle these challenging times.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things there. So first of all, I think the origin story of entrepreneurs is always very interesting, and so I would attribute my love of entrepreneurship from two things. One was the fact that my father owned his own business, and both my parents worked in it, and I saw what it took to build a business, and so I think that was very informative to me, and also my grandparents, who were Poles in the Second World War and were displaced from Poland, spent time in Siberia before going to the Middle East, and then arriving in the UK at the end of the Second World War. Their struggles with adversity, I think, have been really important in my own kind of psyche and my preparedness to take on challenges, because ultimately I look at some of the challenges that I have to take on and recognize that what I'm dealing with is nothing compared to the challenges to endure, and that's two generations ago. It's this is not I'm not talking about history 100, 200 years ago. No, this is 1 year history. So I think that that they were my influences. I also think I kind of talk about entrepreneurship being in my blood, but actually I think entrepreneurship, and I'm kind of conscious that I'm overusing that term now, but that process of being an entrepreneur is not, I don't believe it's an innate skill. I think it's something that some people kind of go towards, and people it attracts certain people. But actually I think the skills that you need to be an entrepreneur have to be learned. They're learned skills. They're not skills that you're magically born with, and kind of, I know I use the phrase in my blood, but actually that's not the case. Entrepreneurship is something that you have to learn, and you learn it through doing and experience, and learn it through success, and you learn even more from failure. I talk to lots of entrepreneurs, and unless you've had failure, unless you've had lots of failure, then you're not really an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is all about pushing and encountering failure. If you're not encountering failure, you're not pushing hard enough. But I think there's also a piece around kind of the traditional form of learning, reading, learning from others, being mentored by others and coached by others. And then there's so much material available now online. True. Brilliant that you can learn online. I'm doing this great course at Harvard Business School at the moment on innovation. And it's nice. It's a great program, and it's free, which is fantastic.
Okay, wait, now you need to tell us what it is, because I'll need to look it up. I'm writing it down.
I'll have to, let me have a look. It's called Invention is Not Innovation, is what it's called.
Invention is Not Innovation.
Invention is Not Innovation. It's on, if you go onto the edX website, you'll find it there. So it's just perfect. A great. And I think, you know, an entrepreneurship is about constant learning. I think, you know, it's really interesting. You read about Bill Gates,
Right.
you know, who I still think is a great entrepreneur. You know, he's kind of gone from for-profit business to not-for-profit business, and he's, you know, I think his success as a philanthropist is because he's just using everything he knows about building business and building successful business, but in the space. And I really like, you know, I'm in awe of what the Gates Foundation have done. But, you know, Bill Gates is a prolific reader. I think, you know, he talks about reading one book a week, which,
amazing.
you know, is kind of a lot. But, you know, with, you know, I listen to, you know, I've got Audible, so I listen to a book. You know, I've got a book on my phone when I'm kind of queuing at a shop for bread.
Oh, you know, exactly. Like, I can't remember. I heard someone say it's like using the time you already have. So like if you, I mean, again, today no one's commuting, but like in the day when people were commuting, you know, use that time because you're already spending the time. If I go for a walk now, you know, there are definitely times where I'm like, okay, let me listen into nature, but I typically listen to a podcast or an audiobook.
Yeah. But you're right. It's just kind of using that time that you know, using that dead time to learn stuff. And so I think that's really important. You know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you know, that want is very important. But also you've got to learn as much as you can. You know, there's no magic to being a successful entrepreneur. You know, there is a lot of skill and you know, a huge amount of hard work. You know, it requires a level of dedication that very few jobs, I think, are. You know, and you talk to, you know, lots of entrepreneurs, and you know, they might be entrepreneurs who run small businesses, you know, that kind of are important to the local community, or they might be, you know, fast growth tech businesses, and they all talk about, you know, the amount of, you know, some talk about personal sacrifice, but all talk about, you know, the level of, you know, personal investment that they make into their businesses. So I think that's kind of a, you know, an important ingredient as well. And then if I unpack what I mean by entrepreneurship, because it's kind of quite a far-reaching term, I think it incorporates skills like creativity and problem solving and innovation. And you know, and innovation is not about the innovation of an entrepreneur is not about innovating, you know, brand new product or service. You know, very often it's kind of those micro innovations that you make in every part of your organization to make your organization just better. And so, you know, I think that's an important aspect. And I think there is also a piece around really understanding your customers and your users, and building your business that's highly responsive to your users. You know, I think the one unifying objective of every business is that it's about making your customers' lives easier. You know, that's you know, you apply to any organization. If you can make your customers' lives easier, they will buy from you. And I think, you know, really important part of the entrepreneur skill set is to recognize that, you know, if you want to make your customers' lives easier, you've got to stand in their shoes and look at from their perspective. You've got to be able to, you know, make the changes, and you've got to have problem-solving skills in order to respond to those challenges. So, you know, I think there's a whole range of skills that kind of fit into the entrepreneur's skill set. You know, very often as well, you know, when you're running a business, you're doing everything. You know, there is not a job that isn't part of your kit bag, and you are, you know, you can be, you know, doing finance one morning, and, you know, talking to, you know, a client or an investor in the afternoon. You know, the whole breadth of skills that you need as an entrepreneur, and, you know, that willingness to get involved, and, you know, almost have that, you know, no mountain is too high attitude, I think, is really important.
You don't need, and that's why I feel like what you're describing is you don't need to know it. The great thing about this type of, and I know we're using this word, but it's like, it's really, it is like a mindset as opposed to a type of job. You know, it's like, you have to be okay with not knowing and just going in there and figuring it out, and if you're wrong, it's not the end of the world, because I know that can happen, but it's really just going in there with the open mind. If you need to talk to an investor and you've never talked to an investor before, you're going to figure it out. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. It is, it's nobody else is going to help you other than yourself. So, it requires a level of self-sufficiency that maybe other jobs don't require. Interestingly, I think though that, coming back to my idea of, this is the age of the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think these skills that we're talking about are going to be really important, whether you're running your own business or, and I think, employers are going to start saying, employers are already looking for people with entrepreneur skill sets. I think it's really interesting how, there's lots of, really smart people coming out of universities at the moment, and they're shunning the Goldman Sachs and JP Morgans and even the Googles and the Facebooks, and they're kind of going, and their first job is starting a business because they know that that's going to give them this really valuable kit bag of skills that they can take anywhere, and that people will hold in real value. And that becomes really important, in this post-COVID world, because, in the post-COVID world, nothing that existed before, exists now. And, that all that uncertainty, as I said before, is kind of that's the fuel that entrepreneurs thrive on.
It's such, I mean, and you said it too. I'm just excited about this time, because the things that will come out of this, the changes, and I think what can make true impact in people's lives, it's just really going to be fascinating, and it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think there's a really important lesson that COVID has taught everyone, which is, the moment that you have one big, huge problem, one big hairy monster in your pathway, which is what COVID is, it's a monster. The moment that you have that single objective to overcome it, the convening power of that problem and the way that people step up to help fix that problem, I think is astonishing. There's lots of talk about how businesses have pivoted quickly, and the pace of digital transformation. There's a McKinsey paper out the other week that said, I think we've done 10 years worth of digital transformation.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's staggering. But that's only happened because actually everybody's gone, okay, we've got a problem here.
We were forced.
And now we have to get on with this. Yeah. We can't dither about it, and we can't wait for perfection. We've just got to crack on. And that's going to create momentum. I think there's real opportunity that momentum is, people see that massive changes, that fast, rapid action to one particular problem is created. And I think it's going to create, a lot more momentum to adopt, a whole range of technologies that maybe we haven't even thought about, in our own sphere of interest in education. Certainly in the UK, and I don't know what it's like in the US, but certainly in the UK, I would describe the education system, not controversially, but I describe it as very analog. It's it uses a model that's tried and tested, that it works with students of a variety of ages, congregating in a classroom and learning. And that is a model that works. Yep. But what COVID has forced us to do is actually that's suddenly not possible. And suddenly there has to be a adoption of digital tools. And suddenly the education system has taken this massive step forward in, okay, how do we make technology work for us, and how can we use it not just to supplement how we deliver, but how can we use it to make education that much better? And so I think we'll see in sectors like education, not just a little bit more progress. I think we're going to see really big step changes in how people think about education, how people think about skills and development of skills over the next few years.
I completely agree. And it's the same in the US. This has been going on for a while. There have been a few sort of out in the front trying to tackle that. But, for the most part, it wasn't a really big force. And now, of course, the big force. But the things that they were thinking about digital learning, again, not in the respect to like now our whole life is potentially going to need to be virtual and how are we going to tackle that? But also what I think they didn't know, and I mean, I feel like this is kind of globally, not necessarily in any one particular country, but, we haven't really tackled how people learn so differently now. We've got people, and I don't even like to use the word learning disability. Most people are familiar with that word. I say it's someone's gifts, but basically everyone learns differently. I'm a visual person. So someone, if I read a report, I then need to like be in something and interact for it to really stick in my mind. That's just how I work. And everyone works differently like that. So you throw in a virtual environment with someone that doesn't have like the hands-on capability for that to set, you now need to think about when you talk about those customer needs, that's the same thing they're doing. I mean, but they've got a whole slew of various needs that they're trying to figure out at the same time.
Yeah. I think also it's interesting, some of the challenges around not just how people learn, but the resources they have available to them.
Right.
So, the challenge that I think a lot of pupils have had in the UK is lack of availability to computers. And computers.
I was just going to say that. I was like, I bet it's the same. Yep.
It is digital poverty is a problem, and addressing it is really important if we're going to have an inclusive society. And so I think there's definitely an issue there. But at the same time, I think there's also a piece around how maybe the education system needs to think about mobile devices, because actually mobile devices have got a much wider reach than laptops or desktops.
Right.
So how do you take content so that it works better in a mobile environment? And mobile environment is obviously very different. You've got a much less screen real estate.
Sure.
People have much shorter time spans, but it's that how does the education system respond to this changing environment? Because it's not just about converting a classroom into an on-screen experience. Right. You need a bigger screen, but actually, how do you turn a immersive, valuable, relevant, rigorous learning environment? How can you do that on a screen that's a fraction of the size of a laptop's, on a mobile screen? And how do you make that work? Because if you address that problem, then the opportunity to educate not just our nation's young people and older people who want to learn, but the ability to reach into populations where education is not as widely available is transparent. And these are the kind of products that could come out of kind of COVID and kind of lead to kind of this better place that we're heading towards.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up. That was something well before COVID. I know that was always on my mind. I would talk to these universities around the world and they'd say things like, again, that whole like, well, we need to be online. And then, well, what's the percentage of people in your country that have internet access? And then that conversation would start to happen. I was like, well, even here in the US, people that might be struggling typically are able to get a phone and have phone coverage. So that always leaves like that as a potential platform. But this was again years ago. So I'm just glad that this is something that's starting to be on people's minds. And I hope they sort of take this moment, that 10 years, that fast forward 10 years and just be like, okay, you know what? Let's not solve what we were trying to solve 5 years ago. Let's just get to the point here.
Yeah. I think there is one piece though around technology not always being the answer. And I think there will always be, in every society, there will be a group of people that just don't feel comfortable using technology for a variety of reasons. And I think, good user-centric design doesn't say, well, this kind of works for, 80% and, tough luck to the other 20%. Good user-centric design and good societal behavior should be saying, okay, what can we do to make sure that whatever we do is 100% inclusive? And that might mean that, that there is a small percentage where you have to do analog,
right?
But because that's just what works for those people. It should never be at the,
right. Not a forcing to, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Digital shouldn't exclude people. Digital should just help make people more, kind of a broader community around which, quality experiences can be delivered.
Oh, that's great. That's a really good point. So I know we didn't really get a chance yet to dive into some of the work that you're doing. But
I don't think I've answered your first question yet, I'll be honest.
We could go on forever. But I feel like I would, now that you're describing some of these things, I'm wondering if that's filtered into some of the work you're doing right now. Are these some of the problems that you're trying to tackle, or what are you really seeing as sort of these points that are possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of challenges that have been thrown up. I'm very worried about how the jobs impact of COVID is going to disproportionately impact some people more than others, and all the research and some of the stats that are already coming out, certainly within the UK, point to the fact that people in lower paid work, so not necessarily low skills, but lower paid work, are the ones that are suffering most from the fallout from COVID. And helping and supporting that group of people, and it's a significant number of people, helping them, I think, is really important. And one of the grand challenges that I think is important for entrepreneurs to respond to. And and I think it does come down to skills and helping people develop their skills and develop new skills so that they can continue being economically active. Because if we don't get this right, then we'll end up with long-term scarring in our communities that will last for a very long period of time. So I think there's a real call to action for entrepreneurs to address this challenge, particularly for those in lower paid work. I think the other challenge that I'm really interested in is the skills that are needed in small businesses in particular. And I think small businesses are they're going to be one of the key elements to the recovery of the economy.
Right.
The speed at which small businesses can recover is going to be the hallmark of those countries that get back on their feet faster than those that don't.
Yeah.
And typically, and again, I think this is some research that came out of McKinsey. I read a lot of McKinsey articles. But some research from McKinsey, I think, points to the fact that in previous recessions, it's taken about 2 years for large enterprises to exit a recession. And it's taking small businesses between 5 and 7 years to exit.
Wow.
So you have a big disparity. And, some of the challenges that have been thrown up by COVID, again, disproportionately affecting smaller businesses. So, if I look at London, where I am at the moment, and look at what's happening in the economy. So around where I am, I'm in Islington, which is just outside of the main business area of London, and everything is really busy, and it's almost back to normal if it wasn't for people queuing outside shops and wearing face masks.
Sure.
But then, if I go into the city or into the West End, which is kind of in the central business district, it's completely dead. There's nobody there. Very little, very few people on the streets. Very few businesses open, and that's all having this terrible impact on small businesses in those areas.
Yeah.
They're dependent on footfall, and when the footfall's not there, the footfall might be 10% of what it would be normally. In the financial district in the city, there's over 500,000 people that commute to the city every day.
Crazy.
And it's down to about 50,000 at the moment.
Yeah.
So big changes that's really having an impact on small businesses. And I think a lot needs to be done to help small businesses recover from this shock and recover faster than this 5 or 7
Yeah,
years.
because if that's 5 to 7 years, and those recessions were nowhere near what we're dealing with here today.
Yeah, yeah. I think at the last count, certainly for the UK, the current recession is more than twice. Is going to be has had a impact on the economy that is twice as big, more than twice as big as the financial.
Wow.
So I think the
Wow.
financial crisis was about 4.7% fall in
Yeah.
the economy in 2008, and the Bank of England have just announced that the fallout from coronavirus in 2020 will be just shy of 10%. So
Wow.
these are tough
Yeah.
challenges. And it's really important to help small businesses recover. So, that's another area that I'm really interested in. How can we help this recovery process,
Mm-hmm.
particularly small businesses in the economy? And one of the things that I'm working on, which is a kind of a not-for-profit that I'm involved with, is to create a think tank called the Big Ideas Group,
I
which
love
spells out.
it.
Thank you. The thing that the Big Ideas Group is doing, it's part of the Federation of Small Businesses. But what we're doing is thinking about, what are the big challenges on the horizon? How can small businesses prepare for those challenges and turn the challenges into opportunities?
Mm-hmm.
Because an opportunity is only the other side of the coin to the challenge. So, how do you get businesses ready? How do you get them into the mindset that they're not, in a point of kind of terror in some instances, but not really knowing what to do in the current circumstances. How can you turn that negative energy into positive energy of, right, actually, how can we change, re-engineer what we're doing in order to be able to respond to this new economy
Yeah.
that we're.
That's amazing. So is that something, are you looking for people to get involved with that particular group, or how might people find out more information if they're interested?
So if they connect with me over LinkedIn,
Okay.
I've got some information on there, but I'm more than happy to provide information. I think it's a really really important, it can be a really important template of bringing small businesses together in order to address some of the big challenges that we're facing. So through LinkedIn is the best way to find more information about it.
Yeah, and I'd love to keep tabs on that too, because obviously what we're experiencing, the US being just such an enormous, we have sort of things that are happening in different states. But for me, I'm in the Northeast, close to New York City. I'm seeing what's happening very similar, just as you described in London, with like the commuters, the small businesses. My family actually owns a couple of small businesses in the city. And that foot traffic is.
How are they finding it? How are they finding it?
There, well, the bar that my brother has is they haven't been able to reopen yet. It just doesn't make sense. But they did open the restaurant, and they sort of built like an outside area, like most restaurants are doing, which is great. But this just happened within the last couple of weeks. So far, so good. But the description is that, like, what's the people in the city. I mean, there's no one's really going in, and there's this mass, I don't know if this is happening for you too. There's this like mass exodus that's happening. A lot of people are deciding, like, I'm not going to live in the city anymore. And so that is going to, we already are having a challenge right now, but like, could this actually still continue for a little while with less people being in the city?
Yeah. I mean, it's very strange. It's exactly the same that's happening in London. And very, very similar conversations. Is the centre of our cities and the core of our cities, are they going to be hollowed out by what's happening? And I'm not convinced they will be. I think without shadow of a doubt, there are going to be really, really tough times ahead for the next 12 months, maybe 18 months, because there's a confidence piece. Confidence and trust, I think, is really. But I also think there's a behaviour thing, and behaviours are ordinarily very, very difficult to change. And actually, what we're seeing is, and again, I'm kind of describing the UK story, but we were going along, and you heard the news on about coronavirus. And I remember speaking to someone at the beginning of February at a conference in London, and they were like, this coronavirus is really bad news. It's going to impact, supply chains. I was like, it's going to be fine. Eternal optimist.
Yep.
And then 23rd of March, our Prime Minister comes on TV and says, I'm locking the country down. And overnight we had a behaviour change. Overnight, yes. People went from being kind of, a bit concerned and, kind of aware that things were going, to being,
right.
I'm staying inside, I'm not going outside, I'm not going near people. And, that's kind of created a new type of behaviour that
yes.
is going to take a bit of time for us to change.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I think humans are social creatures,
yes.
and so, there's, technology can deliver a whole stack of benefits. The fact that we're doing this conference call.
Exactly.
Awesome. I mean, you're in the States, I'm in London, and we're doing this great call. But actually, would it be, could we do the same, if we were together in London, would it be a slightly different experience? Almost certainly it would be.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing, is that, humans are social creatures, and that interaction with one another is really important. And there are certain things that are very, very difficult to replicate using technology at the moment. There might be a point in the future technology can provide us a much more immersive experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I suspect that we'll see city centres come back to being very important in our societies over the next 12 or 18 months. I think, and maybe sooner, if a vaccine's developed,
sure,
and, confidence returns very quickly, and then, the behaviours change very quickly, I think we'll be returning to the cities very quickly, just because of, the nature of.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there are plenty of people, and I felt it too. I mean, this is not for me, I already work from home, so this is not the worst thing in the world by any means. But there are times where, I typically would travel. And so, there's times where I'd prefer to meet people out for dinner, or, I'm there, I'm handling it well, but, everyone, like, it would be nice to just have a get together and not worry about you sitting over there. And
Yeah. No, I think, I think that though, they're always priorities for people. And I think there'll be, it will come, as soon as that confidence and trust is rebuilt, I think you'll see, our city centres coming alive. But I think, we've got a bit of a journey ahead of us before that comes back. And in the meantime, you're seeing, businesses, responding really quickly to opportunities. Mm-hmm. You mentioned your brother's restaurant opening outside, just getting on with stuff and doing stuff. And I think that's, when I see businesses do that, I think that's true entrepreneurship.
It really is. It's just those little movements to figure out, right? Like challenge, what are we going to do? And I mean, just because I'm so ingrained in restaurants, I've seen it. My family also owns a bakery, and we immediately were just like, no one could come in the bakery, and we were doing curbside pickup delivery. And quite honestly, like, it did really, really well. And now we've picked up another facility because we realized this is like a huge growth potential for the business. But again, unless we were forced, it was funny because I'm the one who was always like, let's do this. Until we were really forced to try it, we didn't know if it was going to work or not.
Which is, comes back to the big hairy monster of COVID. The moment you have a big monster, everybody says, okay, we've got to do stuff differently. Yeah. And and that's bread and butter for an entrepreneur, is defeating the monsters and kind of addressing the challenges they face. I think is crucial, and I just love the fact that so many small businesses have responded to the challenge and kind of reinvented themselves. And I think that's a if you want a source of optimism at a time of difficulty, just look at how our small businesses have responded to the challenge.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to see what people are trying, and none of it perfect. Like you said earlier, I'll throw that back in there. I mean, this is not the time to be like, okay, let's really make this plan and it's going to be, exactly how we wanted it to be. No, you just have to go and you'll figure it out and you'll iterate and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfection, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. I think that's Winston Churchill or something. He
Is
said something
okay.
like that.
It sounds
Yeah,
like something he would, a
yeah.
quote from him for
I
sure.
can't take credit for that.
Although a lot of the quotes that you've given here today will be ones that I remember. So,
Okay. Okay. I don't
so I know we're getting close to the end of our time here, Anthony, and
God,
I
already.
know it's crazy. Well, I honestly, when I have these, I always say, I'm like, we could probably go on forever, and I would love to always continue, but the time for people that are listening, I'm sure they want to have us wrap it up. But one thing I do want to ask, and I feel like I can ask you this open-ended question, is if you were going to leave, based on our discussion today, just some parting words for our audience on, I mean, especially because we kind of touched on this age of entrepreneurship, but really any thought that you'd like to leave them with today that might give like an inspiring push for them.
Do you know, I think it's, not wanting to steal Nike's phrase, but it is about just do it. It is about getting on with it, because, and until you start talking to customers and selling things to customers, you just don't know, and so there's never a perfect time to start a business. There's never a right time to start a business. And, just get on and do it. Lots of people say, I'm going to set up a business, but I'm just waiting for the right time. That never happens. It just never comes around. So, I think that's the first piece of advice. And I think the other piece is, being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest jobs that you can do. It's all absorbing. It takes every ounce of energy to do it. And the reason why so many people do it is because, one, it might be the toughest job, or the job that requires you to really commit with both feet. I think it's also the most rewarding job out there. And so, I would encourage anybody who's got, get just that little spark that makes them think that they want to run their own business, to go out there, be an entrepreneur, and kind of, put in what it takes, but also, get that sense of reward from it, because it really is quite rewarding, and, I think the best career that you can do.
That is fabulous. I think most people will really appreciate those last comments, Anthony. So for anyone that wants to keep tabs on Anthony, check out what he's up to, or reach out for that Big Ideas group, which I love that concept. You can follow him. You can reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter at Impmister. Am I pronouncing that right? IMPMISTER. And if you'd like to be in touch with me, my handles are right here. Kelly Ryan Bailey on all the socials. You can listen or watch, actually, Let's Talk About Skills Baby on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. I'd love to have you give me some feedback as well. So you can subscribe, you can leave comments, you can leave a rating. Would love to hear it. But I thank you all for listening in today. Anthony, thank you again so much for joining us today. I really loved it.
Me too. Great experience. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Hope you all have a great day.